Hello, and how are you? How are you today? How is everybody? Thank you for being here. It's good to have you back. We are reading a sequel. Sorry about the slightly odd colour balance. I've been working on it and I'm still not there yet. I probably should actually check to see what my monitor colour settings are like and see if I'm accidentally adjusting it the wrong way, because my monitor is not displaying the colours the way it should do just because I've randomly accidentally changed something. It happens. Technology, computers. Yeah, it's never perfect. Anyway, so today the sequel we are reading today is More William by Richmal Crompton. She was an English school teacher and a spinster. Some say that quite possibly the person she knew who was model for William in the Just William books was her nephew. Some say it was actually somebody else entirely. We don't know. So there you go. She probably knows. I think she probably had a fairly good imagination, and she was also very aware of what people are like. And being a school teacher, she probably saw a fair bit of different characters and personalities over the years. So I have managed to get it up into the overlay over there. I didn't get it done in time for the starting screen, but we'll get that one sorted later. Sorry. I managed at least to get the main background showing on that one, which wasn't before when I started today. It's one of those days. I'm hoping it's not just because the weather is really hot, in which case my computer is going to start having major problems. I'm looking across at my other monitor because I am trying to check to see if there is access to any pictures from the book. I have a digital copy. I'm reading not from a paper printed book. I'm reading from my first generation iPad mini again, because that's where I happen to have this book. I haven't been able to find my father's copies of the William books. He loved them, thoroughly enjoyed them, and they kept him very entertained over the years, especially when he was younger, but also later on. This one apparently was, I don't know if it was first published in, but the original copy, that the digital copy that I'm using is from, was published in 1924. Actually, I'll just see if it says on here. The book was first published in 1922. There you go. And it's actually currently in print. You can actually get the current edition. It's published by Macmillan Children's Books, and it came out in 2005. But with the way modern publishing works, you probably can't still get it anymore. That's just one of those things about modern publishing, which is disappointing. Trying to shut something on my iPad. Sometimes it does it automatically when I tap on it, and sometimes it just doesn't. So I should introduce myself. For anyone who's new here, hi, I'm Jev. I read old-fashioned children's stories. I live in NZ. You can look that up if you want. I've been reading old-fashioned children's stories for nearly 2 years now. Most of the time. There was a bit of a break in there. Why old-fashioned children's stories? Because they're the sort of books that I've enjoyed reading over the years. I have read a lot of the books that my parents and my grandparents read. Some of the books that I read to you are books that I remember reading, and I came across them because of either my parents or my grandparents. And with this grey hair, you can tell that's a very long time ago that those books first were published, some of them. Another reason for old-fashioned books is they use words differently to how we use them today, which means that they make our brain work to piece things together in a slightly different manner. It stretches the way we think, which is very good for our mental health. And on top of that, by reading books that are set in a different time and place and have different main characters to what we would naturally live with in our current day and age, it actually helps to build understanding of other people. Sympathy, empathy, all of those things are stretched and expanded when we actually read about other people, even if they are imaginary other people. So it's very healthy, very, very mentally healthy and also emotionally healthy. It's good to also have a bit of fun from time to time. And I have noticed a trend with these books. I don't know if you have, but most of them, somebody gets into a little bit of mischief, and whether they intend to or not. William doesn't usually intend to. He has very good intentions, but people misunderstand him. And so he gets into trouble for it sometimes. Anyway, so that's just per example. If you really want to know about children getting into trouble, go and listen on YouTube to my playlist for the Treasure Seekers, the Would-Be Goods, and New Treasure Seekers. It's a series of 3 books about the Bastable children, and written by Edith Nesbit, I think it was. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. It's been a few weeks, and there's been lots of words in books since then. Those children get into trouble. Let me tell you, if you're after a little bit of lightweight comedy at someone else's expense, not your own, and just remember they're all imaginary, they're not real people, so you're allowed to laugh at them, go and have a listen to those when we're finished here. I'm still looking to see if I can find these illustrations so I can show them to you, because sometimes I can put them up in my overlay here. And in case you're wondering, no, that is not my library behind me. That is just a photograph that I have used the green screen function of the program I'm speaking to you through to be able to put a picture behind me. Why not? Just makes a change from boring old day to day where everybody else sees you. If you want to see where I actually live, then go and have a list. Once again, promo for YouTube. Go to my channel on YouTube, look through the playlists. Probably, I don't know, maybe you can sort them by oldest to newest. And my oldest playlist, I think, is the Millie Molly Mandy stories. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Just look for Millie Molly Mandy. It's 3 girls' names all put together as one name, but with hyphens in it, if that helps you to find it. I don't know. The YouTube search engine is a little bit strange at times, but those ones I recorded on my phone. I broadcast from my phone, and I didn't have any green screen technology. I didn't have any way of changing things. I hadn't got that all set up. I didn't have a webcam or a microphone that I could use. I literally just used my cell phone and a little wee phone stand to hold it up. And I read the books, and just because it was a little bit boring otherwise, I went to different places around our house to do the stories, to give you a different point of view each time. And the stories are only sort of like anywhere between 6 minutes and 12 or 15 minutes. Each one is a chapter in one of the books. And on top of being a chapter in one of the books is each of the stories is complete. Same characters for most of the characters in the stories, but each story is a complete story. And you don't have to read them sequentially, which I ended up not doing just because the book I started with was a compilation book. So it had stories from several of Joyce Lancaster Brisley's Millie Molly Mandy books, all compiled together. Apparently they did a couple of other editions of the other compilations like that. Just to freshen it up for everybody. But later on I actually found some copies of old versions, not first edition, but original style books, and read as many of them from those books as I could until I was able to complete. I had to use a few from the library as well because we didn't have all of them when we put them all together. So that's why I got back into reading again just this last year. Because I wanted to complete the set, all the Millie Molly Mandy books. But yeah, if you want to see where we live, that's where you'll see it. The rest of my readings are almost entirely done using green screen or just a backdrop for my office. So I'm looking for, here we go, more William, to see if I can get these pictures. Because for some reason, my brain didn't supply the question or the information or the request to sort that out beforehand. While I'm looking for that, you can have just chat amongst yourselves. I used to have a teacher who used to say that. You weren't normally meant to talk in class, but that one did let you do that. I was going to tell you something to do with the books, to do with reading. Oh, it would be a good idea if you get yourself something to drink and something to snack on. And I'm looking around my desk, somewhere comfortable to sit if you can. It's fine if you have to work or if you are not just working, but also, oh, someone's working downstairs with tools. I hope that's not going to be too noisy. You can hear it in the background. You just have to put up with it. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I'm saving this to a new folder. And so I can then actually pull it up on the screen for you. Oh, come on, hurry up. Yeah, so I'm at home. We have a workshop downstairs, which is where my husband actually works. He does building work, tiling work, and also wood turning. And so if he's doing any wood turning work, that will be downstairs, which is why you will hear something like, that sounds like an electric chainsaw, because he's cutting up some wood to be able to do some wood turning. What else? I read three days a week. I am actually finding these pictures, sorry, we're getting there. It's just that they will actually come into the story fairly soon, so I'm trying to find them for you before then. Picture, find where they are so I can get it ready to show you. No, that's the wrong folder. We're getting there. Sorry, you just have to put up with it or go away and listen to somebody else if you can't be bothered waiting. It doesn't actually bother me. If you have to have go, this is not the right stream for you. I can tell you that now. That's what I was going to say. You're most welcome to be studying or working or anything else like that while I'm reading, so that you're actually listening while you're physically otherwise doing something else. That's fine with me. I don't actually have to have your full attention. I'm not that sort of person usually. And it means that it gives your mind something to do when your body, your hands are otherwise occupied. So yeah, it's not a bad thing to do actually, to have. It's another example of an example of that sort of thing is my daughter does sewing. She makes dresses and all sorts of things, and if she's just doing the sewing, once she's actually figured out exactly what she's meant to be doing, if she's just doing the sewing, like laying out the pattern and the material and pinning them down and cutting things out and pinning them together, it's a lot of faffing around with it. If she's just doing that, she finds it a little bit boring, and she finds she doesn't actually get on with doing the job as much. She'll find reasons to not do it, even though the project is entirely of her own making. So what she will do is she will actually find through the library system, she will find an audio book that she wants to listen to. Often they will be sort of historical light interest stories, or some of them are whodunits. I listen to those when I'm cooking dinner, and she will have those playing, and she'll be listening either through a speaker or through her headphones while she's actually working. And she's found that she actually races through the work, relatively speaking, when she's doing it that way, because her mind has something to do, and it keeps her alert and focused on what she's doing, and at the same time she's able to still focus on what she's doing with her hands, and we're ready to go. I haven't got all the pictures, but I've got at least as many as what we're going to be reading through today. And yes, I have just filled in 15 minutes of inane chatter, and I'm very sorry about that, but we shall carry on. I'm just checking that the light's on my microphone. There you go, microphone. Say hello, Blue. Hello. Anyway, so there you go. We shall start reading once I've unlocked my iPad again. And we've got the cover picture up there, yeah, that's it. And we shall get on with the story. More William, and it's written in 1922, so it's old-fashioned. It's after the First World War, before the Second World War. Low technology in day-to-day life. A lot more what we would call a simpler lifestyle. And even in some ways we would consider it a more rural lifestyle. William lives in, I'm not sure if it's a town or a village. These days we would call it a village, just because of the size of it. Back then it was probably referred to as a town. This is my homemade iced coffee. It's actually just coffee, a little bit of icing sugar because it dissolves well, coffee from the coffee machine, and cold milk. It's yummy. But you have to use full cream milk. Yes. Anyway, we're going to carry on. Hi, I'm Jev. I'm reading More William by Richmal Crompton. That's in case you're skipping through and you wanted to get started. Chapter 1, A Busy Day. William awoke and rubbed his eyes. It was Christmas Day, the day to which he had looked forward with mingled feelings for 12 months. Sorry, I've got a bit of paper moving around in the wrong place. 12 months. He's been looking forward to this for... But I'm sure we will actually find out shortly what that means. It's an odd reference to me. Yeah, I'm just doing something else in the background. Sorry about that. There was one other thing I forgot to do. The day to which he had looked forward with mingled feelings for 12 months. It was a jolly day, of course. Presents and turkey and crackers and staying up late. On the other hand, here we go. This is why it's mixed feelings. On the other hand, there were generally too many relations about. I get that. I understand the sense of, let's just keep it simple with our usual day-to-day people around us. I like my own family. I like my extended family. I'm fine with that. But the idea of having lots of other people is a bit much sometimes. Anyway, generally too many relations about. Too much was often expected of one. The curious taste displayed by people who gave one presents often marred one's pleasure. I'm thinking we're going to have an example of that in this story. We shall read on and find out, shall we? He looked round his bedroom expectantly. On the wall just opposite his bed was a large illuminated card hanging by a string from a nail. A busy day is a happy day, was the motto on it. That had not been there the day before. Brightly coloured roses and forget-me-nots and honeysuckle twined round all the words. William hastily thought over the 3 aunts staying in the house. Yeah, okay, too many relatives. I get you now, William, I do. I see why it is that you're a little uncomfortable with all the excess people around at the moment. 3 extra aunts. Actually, it makes me laugh. We used to have... my grandparents used to live next door, well, some of my grandparents lived next door to us, and something falling down the back. Just trying to get my piece of paper ready because I've got notes I want to write already. Some of these stories have more things I want to find out about than others when I'm not reading. And so sometimes I try and remember to get a piece of paper and a pen. I should say that when I'm doing the bit about the water bottle. Don't forget your water. You need to stay hydrated, and bring a pencil and paper so you can take notes. It doesn't mean we're doing a test afterwards. It just means you can write down things that you want to find out about, which is a great way to keep your brain alive. Another one. What was the saying? Write it down. A busy day is a happy day. A busy day is a happy day. Now, just to fill you in a little bit, I've seen them. Not that particular one. It was very common to have motivational mottos of good moral encouragement upon the wall, and they would have this sort of ornate lettering, all sorts, and flowers twined around them, and birds and nests and little animals and all sorts of things, and have them up on the wall. And I think it started in the Victorian period. Actually, you can still find some sets of free clip art and fonts and things like that that have actually been scanned from old pictures and books and things like that that you can use. And I'm fairly certain I've seen something like this one, not this particular one, it may be made up, but these sort of things that people used to have on their walls to encourage them to have a good outlook on life. But when you're a young boy who's about, I don't know, I think he's 7, he might be 10, 9. Does anyone remember? Do you remember how old William was? If you do, write it in the chat. Anyway, we'll carry on. So he's got 3 aunts staying in the house, and he put it down to Aunt Lucy as being the one who would have put it there on the wall, because it wasn't there yesterday. He looked at it with a doubtful frown. He distrusted the sentiment. A busy day is a happy day. I do too, actually. Just being busy doesn't really make you happy. It just makes you busy. But I kind of get what it was she's trying to say. Anyway, we'll carry on. A copy of Portraits of Our Kings and Queens he put aside as beneath contempt. Yes, it's a book. Things a Boy Can Do was more promising, much more promising. After inspecting a penknife, a pocket compass, and a pencil box which shared the fate of Portraits of Our Kings and Queens, probably because it reminded him too much of school and that's the only thing he'd use it for, William returned to Things a Boy Can Do. What was the heading of this chapter? A busy day. Oh, he might actually get to use this against them. Keeping busy. As he turned the pages, his face lit up. He leapt lightly out of bed and dressed. Then he began to arrange his own gifts to his family. For his father, he had bought a bottle of highly coloured sweets. That's lollies if you're in New Zealand. Candy if you're in North America. But just get used to what the English words are for things, because we have lots of them in these stories. Older Kiwis usually know what they mean just because we've grown up with English books. A lot of Canadians do too, actually, for the same reason. Anyway, for his father, he had bought a bottle of highly coloured sweets. For his elder brother, Robert, aged 19, he had expended a vast sum of money on a copy of The Pirates of the Bloody Hand. These gifts had cost him much thought. The knowledge that his father never touched sweets, and that Robert professed scorn of pirate stories, had led him to hope that the recipients of his gifts would make no objection to the unobtrusive theft of them by their recent donor in the course of the next few days. For his grown-up sister Ethel, he had bought a box of coloured chalks. That also might come in useful later. Funds now had been running low, but for his mother he had bought a small cream jug, which, after fierce bargaining, the man had let him have at half price because it was cracked. Singing "Christians Awake" at the top of his lusty young voice, he went along the landing, putting his gifts outside the doors of his family and pausing to yell "Happy Christmas" as he did so. From within, he was greeted in each case by muffled groans. I wonder what time of morning it is. Do you know that hymn? Christians awake, salute the happy morn. Da, 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 da. I can't remember the rest of it, but it was just one of those ones. Probably one that the aunts would like. You can look it up if you want. He went downstairs into the hall, still singing. It was earlier than he thought. Just 5 o'clock. No wonder they were groaning. The maids were not down yet. He switched on lights recklessly and discovered that he was not the only person in the hall. His 4-year-old cousin, Jimmy, was sitting on the bottom step in an attitude of despondency, holding an empty tin. Jimmy's mother had influenza at home, and Jimmy and his small sister Barbara were in the happy position of spending Christmas with relations, but immune from parental or maternal interference. "They've gotten out," said Jimmy sadly. "I got 'em for presents yesterday and they've gotten out. I've been feeling for 'em in the dark, but I can't find 'em." "What?" said William. "Snails. Big, huge ones with great big, huge shells. I put 'em in a tin for presents and they've gotten out and I've got no presents for nobody." He relapsed into despondency. William surveyed the hall. "They've got out right enough," he said sternly. "They've got out right enough. Just look at our hall. Just look at our clothes. They've got out right enough." Innumerable, slimy, iridescent trails shone over hats and coats and umbrellas and wallpaper. "Huh," grunted William, who was apt to overwork his phrases. "They've got out right enough." He looked at the tracks again and brightened. Jimmy was frankly delighted. "Oh, look," he cried. "Oh, funny." William's thoughts flew back to his bedroom wall. A busy day is a happy day. "Let's clean it up," he said. "Let's have it all nice and clean for when they come down." That's the family come downstairs. "We'll be busy. You tell me if you feel happy when we've done. It might be true what it says, but I don't like the flowers messing all over it." Yeah, that's definitely the sort of thing that a maiden aunt would have up on the wall. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you, is we live next door to my grandparents, one of my sets of grandparents, and my grandmother would have two of her sisters and one of her old friends, or two of her old friends and one of her sisters would come up and stay with her. None of them were married anymore. Some of them may not have ever been married, and other ones were widowed. So they were on their own. And so they would come up and stay with her at Christmas time. And thankfully for us, they were wonderful great aunts. Some of them were honorary aunts. And we would get lovely presents from them, usually something that was sweet to eat, and some other bits and pieces that would keep us busy, not just like bath salts and handkerchiefs and things like that. So no, they were lovely. And we would think of them with great fondness when we were buying presents. Not like William's aunts by the sound of it. We'll find out. Anyway, we'll carry on. "I don't like the flowers messing all over it," he said about that motto. Investigation in the kitchen provided them with a large pail of water and a scrubbing brush each. For a long time they worked in silence. They used plenty of water. When they had finished, the trails were all gone. Each soaked garment on the hat stand, because they've scrubbed them to get the snail trails off. Each soaked garment on the hat stand was sending a steady drip onto the already flooded floor. The wallpaper was sodden. With a feeling of blankness, they realised that there was nothing else to clean. It was Jimmy who conceived the exquisite idea of dipping his brush in the bucket and sprinkling William with water. A scrubbing brush is in many ways almost as good as a hose. Each had a pail of ammunition. Each had a good-sized brush. During the next few minutes they experienced purest joy. Then William heard threatening movements above and decided hastily that the battle must cease. "Backstairs," he said shortly. "Come on." Marking their track by a running stream of water, they crept up the back stairs. So in a lot of the houses in this era that they were writing, if it was big enough to have the family and a few spare rooms that the aunts could stay in, you would have the front stairs, which were usually a bit more imposing, not necessarily grand, but just a bit fancier. And then at the other end of the house, probably nearer to where the kitchen and the laundry were, you would have the back stairs. So if you actually had people working for you to do laundry and cooking and stuff like that, they would use the back stairs for going up and down because it was going to their workspace. Wouldn't necessarily be called servant stairs back by this stage of English history, probably just as they've done here, called them the back stairs, because you didn't necessarily have servants. They cost a bit too, because you're paying someone's salary, you're paying for having staff living at your house. But the back stairs would still be convenient even if the house was built in the era when you did have servants, because it means that you've got easy access for going up and downstairs for doing the laundry and housework and things like this, and also for getting upstairs without having to pass other people who might be coming downstairs and may not appreciate what you've been doing to clean. Yes, backstairs, he said shortly. Come on. Marking their track by a running stream of water, they crept up the back stairs. But two small boys, soaked to the skin, could not disclaim all knowledge of a flooded hall. William was calm and collected when confronted with a distracted mother. We was trying to clean up, he said. We found all snail marks and we was trying to clean up. We was trying to help. You said so last night. You know when you was talking to me. You said to help. So I thought it was helping to try and clean up. You can't clean up with water and not get wet. Not if you do it properly. You said to try and make Christmas Day happy for other folks, and then I'd be happy. Well, I don't know as I'm very happy, he said bitterly, but I've been working hard enough since early this morning. I've been working, he went on pathetically, his eye wandering to the notice on the wall. I've been busy all right, but it doesn't make me happy, not just now, he added, with memories of the rapture of the fight. That certainly must be repeated sometime. Buckets of water and scrubbing brushes. He wondered he'd never thought of that before. William's mother looked down at his dripping form. Did you get all that water with just cleaning up the snail marks? She said. William coughed and cleared his throat. Well, he said deprecatingly, most of it. I think I got most of it. If it wasn't Christmas Day, she went on darkly. William's spirits rose. There was certainly something to be said for Christmas Day. It was saving him from getting into quite as much trouble as he could have otherwise. It was decided to hide the traces of the crime as far as possible from William's father. William's father has a very limited view of the world, and the hijinks of a young lad are not really amongst them. I don't know that William's father has much imagination and definitely doesn't have any memory of when he was growing up. Just going by what his responses have been before. We shall carry on. It was decided to hide the traces of the crime as far as possible from William's father. It was felt, and not without reason, that William's father's feelings of respect for the sanctity of Christmas Day might be overcome by his feelings of paternal ire, anger, annoyance. Half an hour later, William, dried, dressed, brushed and chastened, descended the stairs as the gong sounded in a hall which was bare of hats and coats, and whose floor shone with cleanliness. And just to think, said William despondently, that it's only just got to breakfast time. William's father was at the bottom of the stairs. William's father, frankly, disliked Christmas Day. Good morning, William, he said, and a happy Christmas, and I hope it's not too much to ask of you that on this relation-infested day one's feelings may be harrowed by you as little as possible. And why the dickens they think it necessary to wash the hall floor before breakfast, heaven only knows. William coughed, a cough meant to be polite, a polite mixture of greeting and deference. William's face was a study in holy innocence. His father glanced at him suspiciously. There were certain expressions of William's that he distrusted. Funny that. William entered the dining room morosely. Jimmy's sister Barbara, a small bundle of curls and white frills, was already beginning her porridge. Good morning, she said politely. Did you hear me cleaning my teeth? He crushed her with a glance. He sat eating in silence till everyone had come down, and Aunts Jane, Evangeline, and Lucy were consuming porridge with that mixture of festivity and solemnity that they felt the occasion demanded. Then Jimmy entered, radiant, with a tin in his hand. Got presents, he said proudly. Got presents, lots of presents. He deposited on Barbara's plate a worm, which Barbara promptly threw at his face. Jimmy looked at her reproachfully and proceeded to Aunt Evangeline. Aunt Evangeline's gift was a centipede, a live centipede that ran gaily off the tablecloth onto Aunt Evangeline's lap before anyone could stop it. With a yell that sent William's father to the library with his hands to his ears, Aunt Evangeline leapt to her chair and stood with her skirts held to her knees. "Help! Help!" she cried. "The horrible boy! Catch it! Kill it!" Jimmy gazed at her in amazement, and Barbara looked with interest at Aunt Evangeline's long expanse of shin. "My legs isn't like your legs," she said pleasantly and conversationally. "My legs is knees." It was some time before order was restored, the centipede killed, and Jimmy's remaining gifts thrown out of the window. William looked across the table at Jimmy with respect in his eye. Jimmy, in spite of his youth, was an acquaintance worth cultivating. Jimmy was eating porridge unconcernedly. Aunt Evangeline had rushed from the room when the slaughter of the centipede had left the coast clear and refused to return. She carried on a conversation from the top of the stairs. "When that horrible child has gone, I'll come. He may have insects concealed on his person, and someone's been dropping water all over these stairs. That damp." "Dear, dear," murmured Aunt Jane sadly. Jimmy looked up from his porridge. "How was I to know she didn't like insects?" he said aggrievedly. "I like 'em." William's mother's despair was only tempered by the fact that this time William was not the culprit. To William also it was a novel sensation. He realised the advantages of a fellow criminal. After breakfast, peace reigned. William's father went out for a walk with Robert. The aunts sat round the drawing-room fire talking and doing crochet work. In this consists the whole art and duty of aunthood. All aunts do crochet work. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm just having a look at my pictures and seeing if the copy of the book I have, I'm not sure if it actually has pictures in it, and I don't want to miss sharing them with you when I get to them. Right. No, I don't think we've got to that yet. That'll do. We'll carry on. Realised the advantages of a fellow criminal. Someone to share the blame with. After breakfast, peace reigned. William's father went out for a walk with Robert. The aunts sat round the drawing-room fire talking and doing crochet work. In this consists the whole art and duty of aunthood. All aunts do crochet work. They had made careful inquiries about the time of the service. The church service. Christmas Day church service. "You needn't worry," had said William's mother. "It's at 10:30, and if you go to get ready when the clock in the library strikes 10, it will give you heaps of time." Peace, calm, quiet. Mrs. Brown and Ethel in the kitchen supervising the arrangements for the day. The aunts in the drawing-room discussing over their crochet work the terrible way in which their sisters had brought up their children. That also is a necessary part of aunthood. Time slipped by happily and peacefully. Then William's mother came into the drawing-room. "I thought you were going to church," she said. "We are. The clock hasn't struck. But it's 11 o'clock, which means they've missed the first half an hour." There was a gasp of dismay. The clock never struck. Indignantly, they set off to the library. Peace and quiet reigned also in the library. Are you anticipating anything here? On the floor sat William and Jimmy, gazing with frowns of concentration at an open page of things a boy can do. Around them lay, most indecently exposed, the internal arrangements of the library clock. "William, you wicked boy!" William raised a frowning face. It's not put together right, he said. It's not been put together right all this time. We're making it right now. It must have been wanting mending for ever so long. I don't know how it's been going at all. It's lucky we found it out. It's put together wrong. I guess it's made wrong. It's going to be a lot of trouble to us to put it right, and we can't do much when you're all standing in the light. We're very busy, working at trying to mend this old clock for you all. Clever, said Jimmy admiringly. Mending the clock. Clever. So that's Jimmy. There's William. There's the clock in pieces. Oh dear. William, groaned his mother. You've ruined the clock. What will your father say? Well, the cogwheels was wrong, said William doggedly. See, and this ratchet wheel isn't on the pawl properly, not like what this book says it ought to be. Seems we've got to take it all to pieces to get it right. Seems to me the person what made this clock didn't know much about clockmaking. Seems to me, William, be quiet. We was being quiet for you came in, said Jimmy severely. You disturbed us. That's true. Yep. You did disturb us while we were fixing the clock. It may not have been what was needed, but yes, accurate. You did disturb the children. Just getting the next picture ready for you. Right. Leave it just as it is, William, said his mother. You don't understand, said William with the excitement of the fanatic. The cogwheel and the ratchet ought to be put on the arbor different. See, this is the cogwheel. Well, it oughtn't to be like what it was. It was put on all wrong. Well, we was mending it, and we was doing it for you, he ended bitterly, just to help and to make other folks happy. It makes folks happy having clocks going right, anyone would think, but if you want your clocks put together wrong, I don't care. He picked up his book and walked proudly from the room, followed by the admiring Jimmy. William, said Aunt Lucy patiently as he passed, I don't want to say anything unkind, and I hope you won't remember all your life that you have completely spoilt this Christmas Day for me. Guilt-tripping a kid. Yeah, well done, lady. Oh, dear, murmured Aunt Jane sadly. William, with a look before which she should have sunk into the earth, answered shortly that he didn't think he would let his spoiling of her day wreck his life. Now, I agree with you, William. Don't go there. During the midday dinner, the grown-ups, as is the foolish fashion of grown-ups, wasted much valuable time in the discussion of such futilities as the weather and the political state of the nation. Aunt Lucy was still suffering and aggrieved. I can go this evening, of course, she said, but it's not quite the same. The morning service is different. Yes, please, dear. And stuffing. Yes, I'll have a little more turkey too. And, of course, the vicar may not preach tonight. That makes such a difference. The gravy on the potatoes, please. It's almost the first Christmas I've not been in the morning. It seems quite to have spoilt the day for me. She bent on William a glance of gentle reproach. William was quite capable of meeting adequately that or any other glance, but at present he was too busy for minor hostilities. He was extremely busy. He was doing his utmost to do full justice to a meal that only happens once a year. William, said Barbara pleasantly, I can dweam, can you? William's his little cousin. That's, what's his name? Jimmy. That's Jimmy's little sister, sorry. I can dweam, can you? He made no answer. Answer your cousin, William, said his mother. He swallowed, then spoke plaintively. You always say not to talk with my mouth full, he said. You could speak when you've finished the mouthful. No, 'cause I want to fill it again then, he said firmly. Dear, dear, murmured Aunt Jane, in the way of an aunt who has had no children herself and thinks she knows that other people are not doing it properly. Yeah, not good. When maiden aunts who have no experience think that they're experts on how you're meant to raise children. It does happen. Dear, dear, murmured Aunt Jane. This was Aunt Jane's usual contribution to any conversation. He looked coldly at the 3 pairs of horrified aunt's eyes around him, then placidly continued his meal. Mrs. Brown hastily changed the subject of conversation. The art of combining the duties of mother and hostess is sometimes a difficult one. Christmas afternoon is a time of rest. The 3 aunts withdrew from public life. Aunt Lucy found a book of sermons in the library and retired to her bedroom with it. It's the next best thing, I think, she said with a sad glance at William. William was beginning definitely to dislike Aunt Lucy. Please'm, said the cook an hour later, the mincing machine's disappeared. Disappeared? Said William's mother, raising her hand to her head. Clear gone, How am I supposed to get supper, You said as how I could get it done this afternoon so as to go to church this evening. I can't do nothing with the mincing machine gone. I'll come and look. A mincing machine, probably what I would call a grinder. I'll see if I can find you a picture actually. Ooh, none of those look like what I'm looking for. That one kind of does, but that one we will not be getting. How odd. This one here. That will do the job. Here you go. For some reason this keeps opening up in the old folder, not the new folder. Don't know why. It should actually remember where I was last time. Right, here you go. Here's a mincing machine. That thing there, that one, there. I had one like that. It's got that bit there is the handle, and you turn it round, and this bit here has a bit that you drop the food in the top, and it pulls the food along here and pushes it through the blades. So one of the blades is fixed, and the other one turns round as you turn the handle, and then it all comes out into a bowl that you put down on the table or the bench right there. So that's what that is. Okay, we shall carry on. That's the mincing machine. She's needing it for the meal that she's doing for them. They searched every corner of the kitchen. Then William's mother had an idea. William's mother had not been William's mother for 11 years without learning many things. She went wearily up to William's bedroom. Okay, so he's 11 years old. Remember that, because I won't. William was sitting on the floor. Open beside him was Things a Boy Can Do. Around him lay various parts of the mincing machine. His face was set and strained in mental and physical effort. He looked up as she entered. It's a funny kind of mincing machine, he said crushingly. It's not got enough parts. It's made wrong. Do you know, she said slowly, that we've all been looking for that mincing machine for the last half hour? No, he said, without much interest. I didn't. I'd have told you if I was mending it if you'd told me you were looking for it. It was wrong, he went on aggrievedly. I can't make anything of it. Look, it says in my book, How to Make a Model Railway Signal with Parts of a Mincing Machine. Listen, it says, borrow a mincing machine from your mother. Did you borrow it? Said Mrs. Brown. Yes. Well, I've got it, haven't I? I went all the way down to the kitchen for it. Who lent it to you? No one lent it me. I borrowed it. I thought you'd like to see a model railway signal. I thought you'd be interested. Anyone would think anyone would be interested in seeing a railway signal made out of a mincing machine. His tone implied that the dullness of people in general was simply beyond him. And you haven't got the right sort of mincing machine. It's wrong. Its parts are the wrong shape. I've been hammering them, trying to make them right, but they're made wrong. Mrs. Brown was past expostulating. Take them all down to the kitchen to cook, she said. She's waiting for them. On the stairs, William met Aunt Lucy carrying her volume of sermons. It's not quite the same as the spoken word, William dear, she said. It hasn't the force. The written word doesn't reach the heart as the spoken word does. But I don't want you to worry about it. William walked on as if he had not heard her. It was Aunt Jane who insisted on the little entertainment after tea. Oh dear, what have we got? I love to hear the dear children recite, she said. I'm sure they all have some little recitation they can say. Barbara arose with shy delight to say her piece. Little brown seed, little brown brother, and what pray are you going to be? I'll be a poppy as white as my mother. Oh, do be a poppy like me. What, you'll be a sunflower? Oh, how shall I miss you when you are golden and high? But I'll send all the bees up to you. That's kiss. Little brown brother, goodbye. She sat down, blushing amid rapturous applause. Next, Jimmy was dragged from his corner. He stood up as one prepared for the worst, shut his eyes and... I'm just trying to... It's all run together. I'm trying to actually grasp hold of something that will actually make sense. Lick-lacks of kindness, little deeds of love make this here Fannyden like the heaven above is all I know. He gasped all in one breath and sat down panting. I was actually trying to figure out what it was he was trying to say. This was greeted with slightly milder applause. Now, William, I don't know any, he said. Oh, you do, said his mother. Say the one you learnt at school last term. Stand up, dear, and speak clearly. Slowly, William rose to his feet. It was the schooner Hesperus that sailed the wintry sea, he began. Here he stopped, coughed, and cleared his throat and began again. It was the schooner Hesperus that sailed the wintry sea. I'll get on, said his brother irritably. Actually, there's another picture for you, and I need to get it for you, sorry. There we go again. It's the whole... I don't know why it's not remembering. Usually it remembers the folder I was getting pictures from, and I think this is it. Yes, this one. Oops. Sorry, banging my mouse rack. I can't get on if you keep talking to me, he said sternly. How can I get on if you keep talking all the same, or all the time up saying get on? I can't get on if you're talking, can I? It was the Hesper schooneress that sailed the wintry sea, and I'm not going on if Ethel's going to keep giggling. It's not a funny piece, and if she's going on giggling like that, I'm not saying any more of it. Ethel, dear, murmured Mrs. Brown reproachfully. Ethel turned her chair completely round and left her back only exposed to William's view. He glared at it suspiciously. Ethel, I think, is his sister, from what I remember from one of the previous books. The previous book, sorry. Now, William dear, continued his mother, begin again, and no one shall interrupt you. William went again through the preliminaries of coughing and clearing his throat. It was the schooner Hesperus that sailed the wintry seas. He stopped again and slowly and carefully straightened his collar and smoothed back the lock of hair which was dangling over his brow. The skipper had brought, prompted Aunt Jane kindly. William turned on her. I was going to say that if you left me alone, he said. I was just thinking. I've got to think sometimes. I can't say off a great long poem like that without stopping to think sometimes, can I? I'll do a conjuring trick for you instead. He burst out desperately. I've learnt one from my book. I'll go and get it ready. He went out of the room. Mr. Brown took out his handkerchief and mopped his brow. May I ask, he said patiently, how long this exhibition is to be allowed to continue? Here William returned, his pockets bulging. He held a large handkerchief in his hand. "This is a handkerchief," he announced. "If anyone would like to feel it to see if it's a real one, they can. Now, I want a shilling." He looked round expectantly, but no one moved. "Or a penny would do," he said with a slightly disgusted air. Robert threw one across the room. "Well, I put the penny into the handkerchief. You can see me do it, can't you? If anyone wants to come and feel the penny, it's in the handkerchief. They can." "Well," he turned his back on them and took something out of one of his pockets. After a few contortions, he turned round again, holding the handkerchief tightly. "Now, you look close," he went over to them, "and you'll see the penny," he looked scornfully at Robert, "has changed to an egg. It's a real egg. If anyone thinks it isn't a real egg," but it was a real egg. It confirmed his statement by giving a resounding crack and sending a shining stream partly onto the carpet and partly onto Aunt Evangeline's black silk knee. A storm of reproaches burst out. "First that horrible insect," almost wept Aunt Evangeline, "and then this messy stuff all over me. It's a good thing I don't live here. One day a year is enough. My nerves." "Dear, dear," said Aunt Jane. "Fancy taking a new-laid egg for that," said Ethel severely. William was pale and indignant. "Well, I did just what the book said to. Look at it. It says take an egg, conceal it in the pocket. Well, I took an egg and I concealed it in the pocket. Seems to me," he said bitterly, "seems to me this book isn't things a boy can do, it's things a boy can't do." Mr. Brown rose slowly from his chair. "You are just about right there, my son. Thank you," he said with elaborate politeness as he took the book from William's reluctant hands and went over with it to a small cupboard in the wall. In this cupboard reposed an air gun, a bugle, a catapult, and a mouth organ. As he unlocked it to put the book inside, the fleeting glimpse of his confiscated treasures added to the bitterness of William's soul. On Christmas Day, too! While he was still afire with silent indignation, Aunt Lucy returned from church. "The vicar didn't preach," she said. "They say that this morning's sermon was beautiful. As I say, I don't want William to reproach himself, but I feel that he has deprived me of a very great treat." "Nice Willum," murmured Jimmy sleepily from his corner. As William undressed that night, his gaze fell upon the flower-bedecked motto, "A busy day is a happy day." "It's a story," he said indignantly. "It's just a wicked old story." So he'd been very busy, and it hadn't been a happy day, had it? Poor William. He really did try to do nice things. Let's see if there's a picture for it. And that's the end of the chapter. So you can, if you didn't get your drink and your snacks beforehand, you can quickly run off and do those now, and maybe even go to the loo. Go on. Oh, I need to open up my water bottle. Let's see if I can find something that looks anything like what that possibly did. This sort of thing. I shall save this for you and show you the sort of thing that it was. Not necessarily, it's not the same one, because the author's made things up. But it does give you the idea of the sort of thing that people expected to see on the wall in that context. So, and here we go. Obey your parents. That would have been one that was popular. So often, see how it's all floral? Fancy letters, flowers, words, all that sort of thing. That's the sort of stuff that one of his aunts had given him, and, well, not specifically given him, put on his wall as an improving sentiment for him to be able to think upon. Not really that encouraging. Seriously. No. I don't think you need to do that. You don't need to put something on the wall that preaches at a kid to be better. So we shall carry on with the story. And we are reading chapter 2. Yes, we are. Just move this so I can get it in the right place. Ready for the next picture. Right, chapter 2, Rice-mould. This is More William by Richmal Crompton. And it's chapter 2, Rice-mould, as in, I'll read it. It'll make sense. Rice-mould, said the little girl next door bitterly. So obviously this is not Christmas Day anymore. This is the next chapter, so it's another story with William. Rice-mould, said the little girl next door bitterly. Rice-mould every single day. I hate it, don't you? She turned gloomy blue eyes upon William, who was perched perilously on the ivy-coloured wall. William considered thoughtfully. Dunno, he said, I just eat it. I never thought about it. So, just to clarify, a rice-mould is where you have cooked rice and other things mixed into it, pressed into like a ring pan or something else, lobster shape. Sometimes it would just be a mounded castle sort of a shape, or a pudding basin. Turned out, it was firmly pressed in and then turned out, and it's part of the meal. It's portioned out during the meal. Anyway, so no, I don't know, he said. I never eat it. I just eat it. I never thought about it. It's hateful, just hateful. I have it at dinner. I've had it at dinner, and I'll have it at supper. Bet you anything. I say, are you going to have a party tonight? You're going to have a party tonight, aren't you? William nodded carelessly. Are you going to be there? Me? Ejaculated William in a tone of amused surprise. I should think so. You don't think they could have it without me, do you? Not much. She gazed at him enviously. You are lucky. I expect you'll have a lovely supper, not rice-mould, she said bitterly. Rather, said William with an air of superiority. What are you going to have to eat at your party? Oh, everything, said William vaguely. Sorry, apart from the water, I forgot to have my other drink. Cream blancmange? Heaps of it. Buckets of it. Do you know what blancmange is? Look it up. It was considered a luxurious dessert. Cream blancmange. And to look it up, you'll need to know how to spell it. It's spelt blank mange, or mange, B-L-A-N-C, meaning white, M-A-N-G-E. There you go, look it up. Heaps of it, buckets of it. The little girl next door clasped her hands. Oh, just think of it. You're eating cream blancmange and me eating rice-mould. It is impossible to convey in print the intense scorn and hatred which the little girl next door could compress into the 2 syllables. Here, an idea struck William. Oh dear, that usually means trouble. Oh, by the way, just in case you're wondering, a rice-mould is not mouldy rice. I hope that my description was suitable. What time do you have supper? 7. Well now, he said magnanimously, if you'll be in your summer house at 1:30, I'll bring you some cream blancmange. Truly I will. The little girl's face beamed with pleasure. Will you? Will you really? You won't forget? not me. I'll be there. I'll slip away from our show on the quiet with it. Oh, how lovely. I'll be thinking of it every minute. Don't forget. Goodbye. She blew him a kiss and flitted daintily into the house. William blushed furiously at the blown kiss and descended from his precarious perch. He went to the library where his grown-up sister Ethel and his elder brother Robert were standing on ladders at opposite ends of the room, engaged in hanging up festoons of ivy and holly across the wall. There was to be dancing in the library after supper. William's mother watched them from a safe position on the floor. Don't think she's particularly keen on heights. There's William in his precarious position on the wall, and there's the little girl next door with the blue eyes, and there's William on top of the wall when they were talking about blancmange and Rice-mould. Look here, Mother, began William. Am I or am I not coming to the party tonight? He has a intriguing way of opening up a conversation when he's trying to find information. That's just William's way. Sorry, getting the next picture ready. That one is that one. That one is that one. Oh, it might be a bit small. Yes. Oh, that's because I've got the thumbnails, not the originals. That's okay. Look here, Mother, began William. Am I or am I not coming to the party tonight? William's mother sighed. For goodness sake, William, don't open that discussion again. For the 10th time today, you are not. But why not? He persisted. I only want to know why not. That's all I want to know. It looks a bit funny, doesn't it, to give a party and leave out your only son, at least, with a glance at Robert, and a slight concession to accuracy, to leave out one of your only 2 sons. It looks a bit queer, surely. That's all I'm thinking of, how it will look. Bit higher at your end, said Ethel. Yes, that's better, said William's mother. It's a young folks' party, went on William, warming to his subject. I heard you tell Aunt Jane it was a young folks' party. So this is obviously still in the Christmas break. Well, I'm young, aren't I? I'm 11. Do you want me any younger? You aren't ashamed of folks seeing me, are you? I'm not deformed or anything. That's right, put the nail in there, Ethel. Just a bit higher. That's right. Perhaps you're afraid of what I'll eat, went on William bitterly. Well, everyone eats, don't they? They've got to live, and you've got things for them to eat tonight. You don't grudge me just a bit of supper, do you? You'd think it was less trouble for me to have my bit of supper with you all than in a separate room. That's all I'm thinking of. The trouble. William's sister turned round on the ladder and faced the room. Can't anyone, she said desperately, stop that child talking? William's brother began to descend his ladder. I think I can, he said grimly, but William had thrown dignity to the winds and fled. He went down the hall to the kitchen, where cook hastily interposed herself between him and the table, laden with cakes and jellies and other delicacies. Now, Master William, she said sharply, you clear out of here. I don't want any of your things, cook, said William magnificently, but untruthfully. I only came to see how you were getting on. That's all I came for. We're getting on very well indeed, thank you, Master William, she said with sarcastic politeness. But nothing for you till tomorrow, when we can see how much they've left. Oh dear. She returned to her task of cutting sandwiches. William, from a respectful distance, surveyed the table with its enticing burden. Huh, he ejaculated bitterly. Think of them, sitting and stuffing away at our food all night. I don't suppose they'll leave much, not if I know the set that lives round here. Don't judge them all by yourself, said Mother. No, don't judge them all by yourself, Master William, said Cook unkindly, keeping a watchful eye upon him. Here, Emma, put that rice-mould away in the pantry. It's for tomorrow's lunch. Rice-mould? That reminded him. Cook, he said ingratiatingly, are you going to make creme blancmange? I am not, Master William, she said firmly. Well, he said with a short laugh, it'll be a queer party without creme blancmange. I've never heard of a party without creme blancmange before. They'll think it a bit funny. No one ever gives a party round here without cream blancmange. Don't they indeed, Master William? Said Cook with ironic interest. No, you'll be making one perhaps later on, just a little one, won't you? And why should I? Well, I'd like to think they had a cream blancmange. I think they'd enjoy it. That's all I'm thinking of. Oh, is it? Well, it's your ma that tells me what to make and pays me for it, not you. This was a novel idea to William. He thought deeply. Look here, he said at last. If I gave you, he paused for effect, then brought out the startling offer, 6pence, would you make a cream blancmange? I'd want to see the 6pence first, said Cook with a wink at Emma. William retired upstairs to his bedroom and counted out his money. 2pence was all he possessed. He had expended the enormous sum of 1 shilling the day before on a grass snake. It had died in the night. He must get a cream blancmange somehow. His reputation for omnipotence in the eyes of the little girl next door, a reputation very dear to him, depended on it. And if Cook would do it for 6pence, he must find 6pence. By fair means or foul, it must be done. He'd tried fair means, and there only remained foul. He went softly downstairs to the dining room, where upon the mantelpiece reposed the missionary box. He'd tell someone next day, or put it back, or something. Anyway, people did worse things than that in the pictures. With a knife from the table, he extracted the contents, 3 halfpence, 3 coins that are halfpenny coins. He glared at it balefully. 3 halfpence, he said aloud in righteous indignation. This is supposed to be a Christian house, and 3 halfpence is all they can give to the poor heathen. They can spend pounds and pounds on. He glanced round the room and saw a pyramid of pears on the sideboard. Tons of pears and green stuff to put on the walls, and they give 3 halfpence to the poor heathen. Ha! He opened the door and heard his sister's voice from the library. He's probably in mischief somewhere. He'll be a perfect nuisance all the evening. Mother, couldn't you make him go to bed an hour earlier? Oh dear. Now his sister's trying to get rid of him. William had no doubt as to the subject of the conversation. Make him go to bed early. He'd like to see them. He'd just like to see them, and then he'd show them anyway. Yes, he would show them. Exactly what he would show them and how he would show them, he was not yet very clear. He looked round the room again. There were no eatables in it so far, except the piled-up plate of huge pears on the sideboard. He looked at it longingly. They'd probably counted them and knew just how many there ought to be. Mean sort of a thing that they would do. And they'd be in counting them every other minute just to see if he'd taken one. Well, he was going to score off somebody somehow. Make him go to bed early indeed. He stood with knit brows, deep in thought. Then his face cleared, and he smiled. He'd got it. For the next 5 minutes he munched the delicious pears, but at the end the piled-up pyramid was exactly as he found it. Not a pear gone. Only on the inner side of each pear, the side that didn't show, was a huge semicircular bite. William wiped his mouth with his coat sleeve. They were jolly good pears, and a blissful vision came to him of the faces of the guests as they took the pears. Oh, of the faces of his father and mother, and Robert and Ethel. Oh, crumbs, he chuckled to himself as he went on down to the kitchen again. I say, cook, could you make a small one, quite a small one, for 3pence halfpenny? Cook laughed. I was only pulling your leg, Master William. I've got one made and locked up in the larder. That's all right, said William. I wanted them to have a cream blancmange, that's all. Oh, they'll have it all right. They won't leave much for you. I only made one. Did you say locked in the larder? Said William carelessly. Must be a bother to you to lock the larder door each time you go in. Oh, no trouble, Master William, thank you, said Cook sarcastically. There's more than the cream blancmange there. There's pasties and cakes and other things. I'm thinking of the last party your ma gave. Oh dear. William had the grace to blush. On that occasion, William and a friend had spent the hour before supper in the larder, and supper had to be postponed while fresh provisions were beaten up from any and every quarter. William had passed a troubled night and spent the next day in bed. He'd eaten so much that he had a tummy ache, that means. Oh, then, that was a long time ago. I was only a kid then. Ugh, grunted the cook. Then, relenting, well, if there's any creme blancmange left, I'll bring it up to you in bed now. That's a promise. Here, Emma, put these sandwiches in the larder. Here's the key. Now mind you lock it after you. Cook, just come here for a minute. It was the voice of William's mother from the library. William's heart rose. With Cook away from the scene of action, great things might happen. Emma took the dish of sandwiches, unlocked the pantry door, and entered. There was a crash of crockery from the back kitchen. Emma fled out, leaving the door unlocked. After she had picked up several broken plates which had unaccountably slipped from the shelves, she returned and locked the pantry door. William, in the darkness within, heaved a sigh of relief. He was in anyway. How he was going to get out, he wasn't quite sure. He stood for a few minutes in rapt admiration of his own cleverness. He'd scored off Cook. Crumbs! He'd scored off Cook. So far, at any rate. The first thing to do was to find the creme blancmange. He found it at last and sat down with it on the bread pan to consider his next step. Suddenly he became aware of two green eyes staring at him in the darkness. The cat was in too. Crumbs! The cat was in too. The cat, recognising its inveterate enemy, set up a vindictive wail. William grew cold with fright. The rotten old cat was going to give the show away. Here, pussy, good old pussy, he whispered hoarsely. Nice old puss, good old puss. The cat gazed at him in surprise. This form of address from William was unusual. Good old puss, went on William feverishly. Shut up then. Here's some nice blancmange. Just have a bit. Go on, have a bit and shut up. He put the dish down on the larder floor before the cat, and the cat, after a few preliminary licks, decided that it was good. William sat watching for a bit. Then he came to the conclusion that it was no use wasting time and began to sample the plates around him. He ate a whole jelly and then took 4 sandwiches off each plate and 4 cakes and pasties off each plate. He had learnt wisdom since the last party. In other words, he's not going to try and eat everything, all of everything. Meanwhile, the cat licked away at the creme blancmange with every evidence of satisfaction. It even began to purr, and as its satisfaction increased, so did the purr. It possessed a peculiarly penetrating purr. Cook, called out Emma from the kitchen. Cook came out of the library where she was assisting with the festoon hanging. What's the matter? There's a funny buzzing noise in the larder. Well, go in and see what it is. It's probably a wasp, that's all. Emma approached with the key, and William, clasping the blancmange to his bosom, withdrew behind the door, slipping off his shoes in readiness for action. Poor puss, said Emma, opening the door and meeting the cat's green, unabashed gaze. Did it get shut up in the nasty dark larder then? Who did it then? She was bending down with her back to William, stroking the cat in the doorway. William seized his chance. He dashed past her and up the stairs in stockinged feet, like a flash of lightning. But Emma, leaning over the cat, had espied a dark flying figure out of the corner of her eye. She set up a scream. Out of the library came William's mother, William's sister, William's brother, and Cook. A burglar! In the larder! Gasped Emma. I seed him, I did, out of the corner of my eye, like when I was looking up. And when I looked up, he wasn't there no more, flitting up the hall like a shadder he was. Oh, Lord, it's fairly turned me inside. Oh, Lord. What rubbish, said William's mother. Emma, you must control yourself. I went into the larder myself, said Cook indignantly, just before I came in to help with the greenery ornaments, and it was empty as hair. Air. It's all that silly Emma. Always having the jumps, she is. Where's William? Said William's mother with sudden suspicion. William? William came out of his bedroom and looked over the balusters. Yes, mother, he said, in that wondering innocence of voice and look which he had brought to a fine art, and which proved one of his greatest assets in times of stress and strain. What are you doing? "Just reading quietly in my room, Mother." "Oh, for heaven's sake, don't disturb him then," said William's sister. "It's those silly books you read, Emma. You're always imagining things. If you'd read the ones I recommend, instead of the foolish ones you will get hold of." William's mother was safely mounted on one of her favourite hobby horses. William withdrew to his room and carefully concealed the creme blancmange beneath his bed, so the cat ate some of it, but not all of it. He then waited till he heard the guests arrive and exchange greetings in the hall. William, listening with his door open, carefully committed to memory the voice and manner of his sister's greetings to her friends. That would come in useful later on, probably. No weapon of offence against the world in general, and his own family in particular, was to be despised. He held a rehearsal in his room when the guests were all safely assembled in the drawing room. "Oh, how are you, Mrs. Green?" he said in a high falsetto, meant to represent the feminine voice. "And how's the darling baby? Such a duck. I'm dying to see him again. Oh, Delia, darling, there you are. So glad you could come. What a perfect darling of a dress, my dear. I know whose heart you'll break in that. Oh, Mr. Thompson." Here William languished, bridled and ogled in a fashion seen nowhere on earth except in his imaginations, of his sister when engaged in conversation with one of the male sex. If reproduced at the right moment, it was guaranteed to drive her to frenzy. "I'm so glad to see you. Yes, of course, I really am. I wouldn't say it if I wasn't." The drawing-room door opened, and a chatter of conversation and a rustling of dresses arose from the hall. Oh, crumbs, they were going in to supper. Yes, the dining-room door closed. The coast was clear. William took out the rather battered-looking delicacy from under the bed and considered it thoughtfully. The dish was big and awkwardly shaped. He must find something that would go under his coat better than that. He couldn't march through the hall and out of the front door bearing a creme blancmange, naked and unashamed, with the blancmange uncovered. And the back door through the kitchen was impossible. With infinite care, but little success as far as the shape of the blancmange was concerned, he removed it from its dish onto his soap dish. He forgot in the excitement of the moment to remove the soap, but after all it was only a small piece. The soap dish was decidedly too small for it, but clasped to William's bosom inside his coat, it could be partly supported by his arm outside. He descended the stairs cautiously. He tiptoed lightly past the dining-room door, which was slightly ajar, from which came the shrill, noisy, meaningless conversation of the grown-ups. He was just about to open the front door when there came the sound of a key turning in the lock. William's heart sank. He had forgotten the fact that his father generally returned from his office about this time. William's father came into the hall and glanced at his youngest offspring suspiciously. "Hello," he said. "Where are you going?" William cleared his throat nervously. "Me?" he questioned lightly. "Oh, I was just going for a little walk up the road before I went to bed. That's all I was going to do, father." Flop. A large segment of the creme blancmange had disintegrated itself from the fast-melting mass, and, evading William's encircling arm, had fallen on the floor at his feet. With praiseworthy presence of mind, William promptly stepped on it and covered it with his feet. William's father turned round quickly from the stand where he was replacing his walking stick. "What was that?" William looked round the hall absently. "What, father?" William's father now fastened his eyes upon William's person. "What have you got under your coat?" "Where?" asked William with apparent surprise. Then, looking down at the damp excrescence of his coat as if he noticed it for the first time, "Oh, that," he said with a mirthless smile. "Do you mean that? Oh, that's just something I'm taking out with me, that's all." Again, William's father grunted. "Well," he said, "if you're going for this walk up the road, why on earth don't you go instead of standing as if you've lost the use of your feet?" William's father was hanging up his overcoat with his back to William, and the front door was open. William wanted no second bidding. He darted out of the door and down the drive, but he was just in time to hear the thud of a falling body and to hear a muttered curse as the head of the house entered the dining room, feet first, on a long slide of white glutinous substance. "Oh, crumbs," gasped William as he ran. The little girl sitting next door was sitting in the summer-house armed with a spoon when William arrived. His precious burden had now saturated his shirt and was striking cold and damp on his chest. He drew it from his coat and displayed it proudly. It had certainly lost its pristine, white, rounded appearance. Yes, it's usually moulded a little bit like jelly. The marks of the cat's licks were very evident. Grime from William's coat adhered to its surface. It wobbled limply over the soap dish, but the little girl's eyes sparkled as she saw it. "Oh, William, I never thought you really would. Oh, you are wonderful. And I had it." "What?" "Rice-mould for supper. But I didn't mind because I hoped you'd come with it. Oh, William, you are a nice boy." William glowed with pride. "William!" bellowed an irate voice from William's front door. William knew that voice. It was the voice of the male parent who has stood all he's jolly well going to stand from that kid and is out for vengeance. They'd got to the pears. Oh, crumbs. They'd got to the pears, and even the thought of nemesis to come could not dull for William the bliss of that vision that they had got to the pears. "Oh, William," said the little girl sadly. The little girl from next door sadly. "They're calling you. Will you have to go?" "Not me," said William earnestly. "I'm not going, not till they fetch me." "Here, you begin. I don't want any. I've had lots of things. You eat it all." Her face radiant with anticipation, the little girl took up her spoon. William leant back in a superior, benevolent manner. There he is. And watched the smile freeze upon her face, and her look of ecstasy change to one of fury. With a horrible suspicion at his heart, he seized the spoon she had dropped and took a mouthful by mistake. He had brought the rice-mould by mistake. Took a mouthful himself. Oh dear, it didn't work out as he had hoped. There you go. And that's the end of that chapter and today's reading. So next time we shall have chapter 3, which is William's burglar. Ooh, that promises to be interesting, don't you think? Oh, goodness me. William's back and we're having all sorts of things going on. What do you think? Yes, he's trying to impress this girl next door, and what does he end up with? The thing that she doesn't like eating, and she's not happy. So I think the sparkle has gone off their relationship. Anyway, that's the end of our reading today. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.